When you learn the power of silence, you start to understand that it's not just about keeping your mouth closed, it's about building strength on the inside. We live in a world that constantly tells you to speak up, defend yourself, prove yourself, clap back at the people who doubt you. But sometimes the strongest move you can make is to say nothing at all. Silence is not weakness. Silence is discipline. Silence is self-control. Anybody can lash out. Anybody can talk back. Anybody can argue for hours. But it takes a strong person to sit in silence, to observe, to listen, to let things pass, and to still move forward without letting outside noise throw them off balance. Real strength. See, when you stay silent, you give yourself time. Time to think, time to breathe, time to actually understand what's going on instead of reacting on impulse. People are reacting so quickly to the world that they never give themselves the space to see clearly. They don't realize they're giving their power away every single time they jump into an argument or try to prove something to somebody who doesn't even matter. But when you choose silence, you're taking that power back. I don't need to show you who I am with my words. I'll show you with my actions. And believe me, that hits harder than anything you could ever say. Silence is also a shield. It protects you from battles that don't belong to you. You don't have to fight every war. You don't have to respond to every criticism. You don't have to clap back every time somebody says something negative. Sometimes silence is the answer that speaks the loudest, because when you don't give people your energy, they don't have power over you. They expect you to break, to argue, to prove, to fight. But when you stand still, when you hold your ground in silence, it frustrates them more than any words ever could. That's when you realize silence isn't weakness, it's strength. But silence is not just about ignoring the outside world. It's about connecting with yourself. It's in silence that you hear your own thoughts the loudest. It's in silence that you can really reflect on your life, your decisions, your goals, your mistakes, and your progress. Noise covers the truth, but silence uncovers it. You can't hear what's going on inside your spirit if you're always caught up in what's happening outside of you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is disconnect. Step away from the voices, step away from the chaos, and sit in silence with yourself. That's where strength is built. Now let me tell you something. Silence doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean sitting back and letting life happen to you. It doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're choosing your battles wisely. It means you're investing your energy in the places that matter most. It means you're letting your work, your discipline, your character, and your results speak for you. Think about it. When someone achieves greatness, when someone transforms their life, they don't need to say a word. The success itself speaks louder than any argument, any speech, any explanation. That's the kind of silence I'm talking about. A silence that is strong, powerful, and undeniable. And here's the truth: silence requires faith. Faith in yourself, faith in your path, faith that you don't need to rush into proving anything, because your time will come. People will doubt you, they will talk about you, they will misunderstand you, but silence says, I know who I am and I know where I'm going. I don't need to convince you. Just wait and see. That's a strength very few people ever master, because most people are desperate for validation, desperate to be understood. But when you rise above that desperation, when you're at peace with yourself, that silence becomes your power. There's also something humbling about silence. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. It reminds you that not every moment needs noise. Not every success needs to be shouted. Sometimes the best victories are celebrated in silence, because you don't need applause to validate your journey. Living for the noise, you're living for the growth, for the discipline, for the transformation that nobody sees until one day they can't ignore it anymore. So when life challenges you, when people test you, when the world tries to pull a reaction out of you, remember this: silence is strength. It's not about proving them wrong in the moment. It's about proving yourself right over time. Let your silence build your focus. Let your silence sharpen your vision. Let your silence protect your peace. And when the time is right, when your actions and your results start to show, your silence will speak louder than anything you could have ever said. That's real power. Energy flows where attention goes. Think about that for a moment. Whatever you give your attention to, you are feeding. Whatever you focus on, you are fueling. Most people don't realize it. Their energy is being spent on the wrong things. They spend hours worrying about what other people think. They get caught up in arguments, in gossip, in comparisons, in chasing validation, and then they wonder why they feel drained, why they're not moving forward, why their lives aren't changing. It's simple, because the energy they're giving out is not directed toward their own growth. It's scattered, wasted, and misplaced. Now imagine what would happen if you redirected that same energy back into yourself, if instead of scrolling, comparing, and worrying, you invested that time into learning a skill, building your health, working on your mindset, saving money, or building discipline. The truth is, you already have the energy. You already have the power. The problem isn't that you don't have enough. It's that you're focusing it on the wrong things. Once you shift that focus, once you start pouring it into your own life, everything begins to change. The people who grow the fastest are not the ones who work the hardest in front of the world. They're the ones who quietly pour their attention into their own journey day after day, consistently. They understand that what you water grows. If you water negativity, it grows. If you water excuses, they grow. Ken your insecurities by feeding them attention. They'll grow until they take over. But if you water your discipline, your dreams, your goals, your self-belief, that's what grows. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to move mountains in one day. You just need to start placing your energy where it matters most. And let me tell you something, where you place your focus is a choice. Every day you wake up, you decide. Focus on problems or solutions. Do I focus on what I can't control or what I can control? Do I focus on the noise around me or the vision ahead of me? That choice, repeated day after day, is what creates transformation. Truth is, life is always pulling at your attention. Distractions are everywhere trying to steal your focus. And if you don't learn how to direct your energy with intention, keep giving it away to things that don't serve you. But when you do make that decision to focus on yourself, you start to feel a shift. You begin to notice how much lighter you feel. You're not carrying the weight of other people's opinions anymore. You begin to notice how much stronger you feel because your energy is building you up instead of tearing you down. Begin to notice how much clearer you feel because your mind isn't scattered in 100 different directions. That's what happens when energy flows where attention goes. You become sharper, more alive, more focused, more capable of building the life you want. The beauty of focus is that it compounds. The more you give attention to something, the stronger it becomes. That's why small steps matter. Maybe today you focus on reading one chapter of a book instead of scrolling for an hour. Maybe tomorrow you focus on getting up early and exercising instead of hitting snooze. Those small shifts don't look like much at first, but energy multiplies. And before you know it, those small actions turn into habits. Those habits turn into discipline, and that discipline turns into transformation. But don't get it twisted. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour into others if you're empty. You can't lead, you can't inspire, you can't build if you're distracted and drained. The best gift you can give to the world is the best version of yourself. That version only comes when you protect your energy and direct your focus inward. When you build yourself up first, then you're in a position to lift others. But if you keep leaking your energy everywhere else, have enough left to fulfill your own potential. There will always be people who try to pull you off track. They'll want you to focus on drama, on doubt, on fear. But you've got to rise above that. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this helping me grow? Is this taking me closer to my goals? If the answer is no, then it doesn't deserve your focus. Protect your attention like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your focus determines your future. So the next time you catch yourself worrying about who's watching, who's talking, or who's doubting you, stop and redirect that energy. Put it back where it belongs. Your work, into your health, into your faith, into your family, into your growth. That's how you change your life. Not by fighting to prove something to others, but by consistently investing your energy into yourself. At the end of the day, the secret to transformation is simple. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows, and whatever receives your energy is what will grow in your life. Growth comes from within. Something a lot of people don't want to hear because it means they can't blame anybody else for where they are in life. It's easier to point fingers. It's easier to say, I didn't get my chance, or they didn't support me, or life isn't fair. And maybe it isn't fair. Maybe you didn't have the support. Maybe you didn't get the opportunities someone else had. But here's the truth. None of that can stop you from growing if you decide to put in the work from the inside out. Real growth doesn't come from what people give you. It comes from what you give yourself. Too often we get distracted by the outside world. Too much about who's watching, who's clapping, who's talking. We chase approval, we chase attention, we chase likes, we chase validation. But none of that makes you grow. Get applause today and be forgotten tomorrow. You can have a crowd cheering for you and still feel empty when you go home. Why? Because growth isn't about the noise outside of you. Growth is about the work you're willing to do when nobody's looking, the battles you're willing to fight in silence, the discipline you're willing to build when nobody's applauding. See, when you focus too much on the external, start to lose sight of what actually matters. You're more worried about looking successful than becoming successful. You're more worried about being seen than being built. That's why so many people stay stuck. They've put more energy into looking like they're growing than actually growing. But the truth is, the strongest trees don't grow in the spotlight. They grow underground first. Their roots run deep, and nobody sees that part. Nobody claps for the roots. But without them, the tree would fall the moment the storm comes. That's the same with your life. If your growth is only on the surface, the first challenge will knock you down. But if your growth is rooted within, nothing can take you out. And that's why focusing on yourself is so important. You've got to feed your mind with knowledge, with positivity, with truth. Train your body, not just for how it looks, but for the discipline it takes. You've got to develop your spirit, that quiet confidence that says, I can handle whatever comes my way. That's the kind of growth that lasts, not the kind people clap for today and forget tomorrow, but the kind that transforms you from the inside out. It's not easy, though. Working on yourself is the hardest work you'll ever do because it requires honesty. Honesty, you've got to face the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. You've got to deal with your fears, your insecurities, your bad habits, the things that hold you back, and nobody likes to do that. It's easier to cover it up with distractions. It's easier to act like everything is fine, but growth demands that you face the truth. Heal what you won't confront, and you can't grow in the dark if you refuse to shine a light on the things inside you that need to change. But here's the beauty of it. Once you start doing that work, a little bit at a time, you start to notice something. You feel stronger, you feel lighter, you begin to see progress, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The challenges don't disappear. Your ability to handle them grows. The noise doesn't stop, but your focus gets sharper. The negativity doesn't vanish, but it doesn't control you anymore. What happens when growth comes from within? It equips you to handle whatever comes from outside. And let me tell you something else. People might not notice that growth at first. They might not clap for you while you're building. They might not even believe in you while you're changing, and that's fine. Because this kind of growth isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing you're stronger than you were yesterday. It's about carrying yourself with quiet confidence, even if nobody else sees it yet. Eventually, they will. Eventually, the results will show. The real victory isn't what people see, it's who you become in the process. So don't get caught up in the noise. Don't get distracted by the applause or discouraged by the silence. Real transformation is happening inside you where nobody can see. And that's exactly why it's so powerful, because once that change takes root, it can't be taken away. That comes from within doesn't depend on outside validation, outside opportunities, or outside circumstances. It's yours, and it's permanent. At the end of the day, what separates people who just get by from people who truly transform? One is living for the outside, the other is building from the inside. And if you want to see your life change, if you want to see yourself become everything you're capable of being, you've got to make that choice. Stop waiting for the world to hand you something and start giving yourself what you need to grow. Feed your mind, Strengthen your body, guard your spirit, do the work in silence, because when that growth comes from within, nothing on the outside can stop it. That's how real transformation begins. Actions speak louder than words. All heard that phrase before. We've all heard that phrase before, but how many of us really live by it? Too many people spend their energy talking, announcing, and explaining what they're going to do, what they want to be, what they plan to accomplish. But talking doesn't move your life forward, action does. And the truth is, the more time you spend trying to convince people with words, the less time you're actually spending building the life that will speak for itself. There's a certain power in silence when it's backed up by consistent action. When you stop telling people your every move and start showing them through what you do, the impact is undeniable. Think about it. People might doubt your words. They might argue with your opinions. They might ignore your explanations, but they cannot ignore results. You can't argue with evidence. Debate success that is standing right in front of you. That's why action will always speak louder than words. It leaves no room for excuses or denial. But here's the challenge. Talking feels good in the moment. Feels good to tell people your plans, to announce your goals, to explain your vision. You get that rush of temporary validation when people react, when they say, "Wow, that's amazing," or "I believe in you." But validation doesn't build anything. That little spark you feel from their response fades, and then you're left with the same reality. Nothing changes until you take action. Where most people fall off. They get caught up in the feeling of talking about it, but never put in the work to actually do it. When you stay silent and put your energy into action instead, something shifts. Stop living for the applause and start living for the process. You stop needing people to believe in you because you start believing in yourself through the work you're doing. Every step you take, every habit you build, every bit of discipline you commit to, it all adds up. And the beauty of it is, while everyone else is busy talking, you're busy building. While they're making noise, you're making progress. Now, don't get me wrong. Action isn't always glamorous. It's not always exciting. A lot of times it's quiet, it's repetitive, it's lonely. Waking up early to train, reading when you'd rather scroll, saving money when you'd rather spend, studying when nobody's watching. That's the kind of action that transforms your life. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with applause. But over time, it builds something powerful. And when the results finally show, people look at you and say, "Wow, how did you do it?" But they don't see the silent actions that got you there. And that's the thing. You don't need them to see. You don't need to broadcast every move. Need to explain every step. You don't need to argue with doubters or defend yourself against critics. Let your actions handle that for you. Nothing silences doubt like success. Nothing quiets criticism like progress. Answers questions better than results. When people see what you've built, when they see the transformation you've made, there's nothing left to say. The actions speak for themselves. Sometimes people will try to pull you into unnecessary conversations, arguments, or debates. They'll want you to prove yourself with words. They'll try to bait you into defending your choices. But you don't owe them explanations, need to justify your dreams to anybody. The only thing you owe yourself is the action required to get there. Because at the end of the day, words fade, opinions change, but results remain. When you live in such a way that your results speak for you, you don't have to chase respect, it comes to you. But here's something important to understand. Action doesn't just speak louder than words to other people. Speaks louder to yourself. Every time you take action, you're building trust with yourself. You're proving to yourself that you can keep promises, that you can follow through, that you can create change. That builds confidence. That builds belief. And belief built on action is unshakable. You don't need someone else to tell you who you are. You've shown yourself through your work. That's where true confidence comes from. Not from talking about what you're capable of, but from doing it again and again until it becomes undeniable. So stop telling the world your every move. Stop wasting your energy trying to convince people with words. Start showing them with your life. Focus on the daily actions, the discipline, the grind, the habits. That's what matters. Because long after the words are forgotten, the results remain. And when people look back, When they see the difference between who you were and who you've become, they won't remember the speeches, the explanations, or the promises. They'll remember what you did. They'll remember how you showed up. Remember the actions that spoke louder than anything you could have ever said. That's how you let your life do the talking. Protect your peace. That might sound simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to live by. Life will test you every single day. People will push your buttons, situations will frustrate you, and circumstances will try to pull you out of character. And if you're not careful, you'll spend all your energy reacting to everything and everyone instead of staying centered and focused on your own path. Protecting your peace doesn't mean ignoring life. It means learning to control what you allow to disturb your spirit. The truth is, not everything deserves a response. Not every comment deserves your energy. Every argument is worth your time. Most people get drained not because life is impossible, but because they keep giving away their peace too easily. Somebody says something negative, and instead of walking away, they get pulled into it. Somebody doubts them, and instead of staying focused, they feel the need to prove themselves. Somebody criticizes them, and instead of letting it go, they let it eat them alive. That's not protecting your peace, that's handing it over. You've got to remember, peace is power. When your mind is calm, when your heart is steady, when your spirit is centered, you make better decisions. You see things clearly. Don't waste time fighting battles that don't matter. But when you let everybody get under your skin, you lose that balance. You're not thinking straight. You're reacting instead of responding. Moving out of emotion instead of wisdom. And that's how people lose years of their life, caught up in drama, caught up in noise, caught up in fights that didn't matter in the first place. Protecting your peace doesn't mean being passive, it means being selective. It means choosing wisely where you put your energy, who you allow into your space, what conversations you engage in, and what thoughts you entertain. Everything has a cost. Every word, every action, every thought, it all either adds to your peace or steals from it. And you've got to be disciplined enough to say, if this is costing me my peace, too expensive. Sometimes protecting your peace means walking away, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Sometimes it means staying silent, not because you don't have something to say, because saying it would only drag you into negativity. Sometimes it means cutting off relationships, not because you don't care, but because they're draining you more than they're uplifting you. Your peace is not selfish, it's survival. If you don't guard your spirit, if you don't set boundaries, the world will eat you alive with its demands, its pressures, and its distractions. And here's the thing, peace isn't something you find outside, it's something you create within. People think I'll be at peace when I get that job, when I get that house, when I make that money. Prove them wrong. But peace doesn't come from conditions, it comes from choices. You could have everything in the world and still be miserable if you don't learn to protect your mind from negativity. You could have very little but still walk with strength if you guard your inner world with discipline. Peace is not about what's happening around you, it's about what you allow to happen inside you. And the truth is, peace is going to be tested the most when you're on your way up. The higher you climb, the more distractions there will be. The more you focus on yourself, the more people will try to pull you off course. That's when you've got to be stronger than ever. Don't let every little storm knock you off track. Don't let every opinion break your focus. Don't let every challenge steal your joy. Hold your peace close. It's what gives you the strength to keep moving forward when the noise around you gets louder. Protecting your peace also means protecting your environment. You can't grow if you're surrounded by negativity. Stay focused if your circle is full of drama. You can't find clarity if you're constantly in chaos. Sometimes the best decision you'll ever make is changing the company you keep. Surround yourself with people who bring calm, not chaos, with people who lift you, not drain you, with people who feed your growth, not your stress. Your peace will always be stronger when your environment matches your intentions. But the most important part of protecting your peace is learning to protect it from yourself, because sometimes the biggest threat to your peace isn't other people, it's your own thoughts. the self-doubt, the fear, the overthinking, the replaying of old mistakes, the constant worrying about the future. If you don't get control of your mind, you'll never know real peace. That's why you've got to train yourself to focus on the present, go of what you can't change, to forgive yourself, and to move forward with faith instead of fear. When you control your inner dialogue, you control your inner peace. At the end of the day, peace is priceless. You can't buy it, borrow it, you can't fake it. You can only protect it by being intentional about how you live, where you put your energy, and what you allow into your space. And when you learn to protect it, truly protect it, you'll find that you don't just survive, you thrive. You move with clarity, with strength, with focus. You build the kind of life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. Why protecting your peace is not just an option, it's a necessity. Transformation is quiet but powerful. It doesn't happen with noise, with announcements, or with grand speeches. In the silence of your discipline, in the late nights when you're still working, in the early mornings when you're pushing yourself, in those private battles nobody else sees. That's why people often don't notice when you're changing, because transformation doesn't always announce itself. It reveals itself over time. Most of the world is loud about their opinions, loud about their plans, loud about what they're going to do. But real change isn't about making noise, it's about making progress. It's about what you're building behind the scenes when no one's watching. It's about the sacrifices you make when nobody's applauding. It's about the choices you make in silence that shape the person you're becoming. And here's the truth. Those silent choices are more powerful than anything you could ever say out loud. When you start focusing on yourself, when you start staying silent, people may not understand it at first. They may think you've fallen off, that you're not doing much, that you've disappeared. But what they don't see is that in that silence, you're growing. You're building strength. You're breaking old habits. You're healing. You're learning. Becoming the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. And when the time is right, that transformation will be undeniable. You won't even need to explain it. Your life will speak for itself. See, the thing about transformation is that it's not always dramatic. It's not some big moment where everything changes at once. It's small, consistent steps that build up until one day, look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. And that's powerful because it shows that true change doesn't need an audience. It needs commitment. It doesn't need recognition. It needs consistency. Doesn't need noise. It needs focus. Think about a seed. You plant it in the dirt, and for a long time, it looks like nothing is happening. From the outside, people might think it's just sitting there useless. But underground, silence, it's breaking open. It's stretching, it's growing roots, it's preparing to rise. And when it finally breaks through the soil, it doesn't need to announce anything. The growth speaks for itself. Exactly how transformation works in your life. For a while, people won't see it. They won't understand it. But if you keep doing the work in silence, eventually the results will show, and they will speak louder than any words ever could. The quiet part of transformation is where the real struggle happens. That's where you wrestle with doubt. That's where you question if it's worth it. Where you're tempted to quit because nobody sees the effort. But that's also where you build strength. That's where you develop resilience. That's where you find out what you're truly made of. If you can push through that silent struggle, you'll come out stronger than you ever imagined. And here's the beauty of it. Transformation doesn't just change how you look, it changes how you live. It changes how you think, you react, how you carry yourself. It gives you a different kind of confidence, one that doesn't come from needing people to notice, but from knowing deep inside that you've put in the work, that you've grown, you've risen above who you used to be. That's a confidence no one can take away because it wasn't given to you. It was built by you. Some people won't recognize you after your transformation, and that's okay. Some people won't understand how you've changed, and that's okay too, because transformation is not about being understood, it's about becoming. It's about living in a way that feels aligned with who you are and who you're meant to be. And when you step into that new version of yourself, when you live out the results of that silent work, People won't need an explanation. They'll see the difference. The truth is, transformation is not for show. It's not about proving a point. It's not about getting attention. It's about freedom. Freedom from old patterns. Freedom from doubt. Freedom from fear. Freedom from the parts of yourself that used to hold you back. And that freedom is priceless. You don't need to shout about it. You don't need to advertise it. You just need to live it. The more you live it, the more powerful it becomes. So don't worry if nobody's clapping while you're working. Don't worry if nobody notices while you're changing. Don't worry if it feels like you're invisible while you're building. That's how transformation works. It's quiet. But when it's real, when it's rooted, when it's consistent, it's powerful beyond measure. And one day, quiet work will show itself so clearly that there will be no need for words, because your life will tell the story. That's the power of transformation. It doesn't need to be loud to be life-changing.